Okay, being 5:01, I'm going to open the meeting, and just before we get rolling here, I just want to get the minutes of 3/19/24 approved. If someone, has everyone had a chance to look at them, first of all? Okay, someone wants to make a motion on
Make a
that?
motion to review the meetings and
Approve the minutes?
approve the meeting
Minutes.
minutes. So first of all, I'll abstain, or someone second it.
You both abstaining?
Lauren.
Do I have a second?
Second?
All in favor? Aye?
Aye.
Abstain? And noes? Any noes? No? So we got a 202, what does that mean?
I mean, it passes, there's no one not in favor, so, you know, it's not, isn't like
It's
a
not ideal,
regulatory vote. Yeah, we don't
but-
need a super majority or anything like that, it's all good.
Okay, and so starting off, I want to introduce Dan Walden, and very prominent commercial real estate broker from the area. And Dan, I've never met you, but I see your name literally every time I drive everywhere. So I was really excited about having you come down, and I want to thank John Shelby for helping us set this up, and for being here, even though he's not a member anymore, much to our chagrin. But I appreciate you coming down, John. So a little bit of why this even came up.
Okay.
And one of the reasons that I was really excited to have you is, you know, every time we have these meetings, we talk about various things that come up, whether it's in planning, zoning, whatever, but, you know, our charge is very specific, and sometimes we get to the point where, you know, how can we do what we've been asked to do? How can we increase revenue for the town? How can we entice business, make things easier to attract businesses to Walpole, that type of thing? And it seems to me it comes down to, we don't really know what we don't know. And it came up in our last meeting that, you know, maybe it might be nice to bring someone in who really does understand the market right now, and understands what specifically Walpole either brings to the table or doesn't bring to the table that is either helping or hindering business from making Walpole their new home. So we're very excited to hear what you have to say. That was the reason we wanted to have you in. I will say this: it's going to be very easy for you to speak for the positives of Walpole. Please don't hold back if you have negatives, because it's important for us to know what we can try to fix. No one's going to come through the door with a baseball bat, start swinging if you start saying something's not working. So really, the most, you know, as important as what's good about Walpole, what might not be working is also extremely important. So I really look forward to hearing what you have to say. So everyone, Dan Waldman.
Okay, well, thank you very, very much. I was very excited when John called me, and I live in Westwood, and I like to tell my friends, Walpole and Westwood, we're the quiet W's. We're not Wellesley, and we're not Weston, but it's so great to live in Westwood and Walpole, I think so. So when John called me, you know, there was a limited amount of time, and I wanted to do research. So my research is a little bit biased because the people I contacted all have businesses in the area. I didn't contact New England Development, you know, National Development, because I had a limited time. And what I did is I called, I took the letter you wrote me, Pat, thank you, and I went to about 30 to 40 people. And remember, it's a little bit biased because they're already here.
Sure.
And, you know, you talk to people, and I think just having me here kind of shows why this town is 300 years old and so successful. I mean, because you know, you're looking for answers, and I think that shows a lot. So the first thing I want to do is tell you a little bit how I got involved with Walpole, and it goes back to 2013. First of all, I got into this business at 51 years old, and I'm not 52. So I've been in it for about 15 years. And it was very new in my career, and the Walpole Mall people called me up, and they said they needed a broker. That's a big assignment for a guy who's only been in the business 5, 6 years. It turned out that everybody else said no because they owed people money. They owed all the brokers. I thought I was some big shot. But anyway, I said, wow, this is a great opportunity. And I went, and they were in a lot of trouble in 2013. I worked, and we started adding people. We added, the first one I added was actually Karen Broderick, the gymnastics inside. And if you know the mall, if you're an old-time Walpole person, you know that mall was always too small to compete with the Simons of the world. But anyway, these guys from California bought it, and boom, we filled it up, and you know, I didn't hear from them for a few years, but they were in a lot of trouble. Then around beginning of 2021, COVID was really killing them, and they were losing tenants left and right. And they said, you got to get back there. In fact, you got to do something. And we worked real hard because it literally, June 1st, 2021, it was going on the auction block. But we had so many leases signed up that they forgave them. And I will say this, as a broker, this town always had their back. I mean, look at all the pad sites. Look at all the things. They sold, the mall was sold about 9 months ago, and the company that bought it has internal brokers, so I'm not affiliated with them. But they're gonna come to you with an idea for a trampoline, and I think that's been always the problem with the mall, the center, you know, the center. So that will solve that problem. And in doing my research, when I had the mall for 10 years, you know, I would go up there, and I took my wife this Sunday, and it was busy. So you got a nice asset. They pay over $1 million in taxes. So the town really saved the mall, really. You know, you were flexible in the pad sites. You're flexible with Aldi's. I never heard the ownership ever say a negative thing about the town. So that's a very good thing. When I talk to my 30 or 40 people that all have businesses here, you know, everybody said, Walpole's a little tough, but they're fair. You know, they're not tough like Dedham, and they're not easy like Norwood. So, you know, you have a nice reputation. And I have some notes, but before I go into the notes, and I'll go on there, I think there's a tough situation for you guys because you represent the people in the town. And I'm just gonna say one thing, being a Westwood guy. I live 2 blocks from Westwood Station. Every neighbor was against Westwood Station, except for Walden. And I wasn't even real estate back then, I was selling furniture. And my wife made the donation, and I actually called Cabot and Forbes, and I said, please come here, I know everybody's against you. They eventually got out, and then New England Development Eastern got in. But now you go, and all my neighbors are walking down there, all the kids are working at Target during Christmas. So I think controlled development is an important thing. I do. I don't think you guys should ever be like Quincy. You want to build a multifamily, go Quincy, Mayor Cox, he'll approve it. But at the same time, this is in my notes, I wouldn't be totally scared. I know you have the 2 beautiful, and then I saw the 2 where the banks were going, you're building some. And one professional did say town's getting a little tight during Monday through Friday when he works, the parking. That's actually on my negative. But I wouldn't be afraid, and I don't think every apartment has to go by the train station. I know the Commonwealth believes that, but I just did a deal in Peabody, Mass. With Trumwell Crow, and it's on Newberry Street, and there's no train station nearby. If you want to know what I'm getting the most calls on, guys, always multifamily, plus 55. Now, by that I mean you have plus 55 communities, all the way to, you know, the skilled care, the memory care, kind of like Care One. And I always like that use because, 1, I'm getting older, but 2, it's not a bad thing because if you can keep the community together, you know, have some apartments for the young kids when they come out of college, and you have beautiful apartments. Maybe you need one more, maybe you don't. I mean, it kind of depends on the school system. But all the demographics are the kids are getting less and less, so maybe you could afford a little bit, and it doesn't have to be by the train station. I get so many calls, Danny, I'm trying to build 150, 200 units. I'm not even saying you have to do that. I'm just saying it doesn't have to be near the train station. So, multifamily, plus 55. I don't think you'll get a lot of calls for labs because we're not near Boston, we're not near Providence, but you do, and you're not near universities. But you know, one thing about this little strip here with Walpole and Sharon, Mansfield, even Foxborough, you guys are kind of unique because you're in between both nice cities, Providence and Boston. You know, it's kind of a nice advantage. My wife works in Providence, so I always throw that up. It is very accessible to two wonderful cities. So I just want to show you one thing here, and I just want to tell you a funny story. If you go down, do you see where it says Duck Donut on the bottom there? You see that? And I have others, but you see that Duck Donut? This is a true story. Anytime I lease, whether it's Walpole, Fall River, I don't care. Unless it's one small step that's in the Gallipolis 1A Plaza, I try to use it. My wife got mad at me because I did a deal in Mansfield, stretching, you know, and I thought I was going to do one, and it turned out it was 3 months. She says, all the money you make on the commission, we're giving back. And then, of course, I did the acupuncture deal in the Walpole Mall. She said, what are you doing? Because that was a 12 session. So anyway, I picked up some donuts at Duck Donuts. This is a true story. I have to tell the group. And I'm coming home, and my wife says, and my friend Paul, who was a deserter, he moved to Situate. But at the time, he was with us. 10 years we were neighbors. He's a great guy, engineer. So I bring the donuts home. I don't know he's there, and I'm giving the donuts out. My wife says, where's Duck Donut in the mall? She knows the mall because she knows my business. I said, it's next to the Joint. Paul says, well, why didn't you bring the marijuana home? That's a chiropractic thing. So, you know, just leading into it, one developer said, don't bring it up. It's very political. Don't bring it up. So just to be totally transparent, this is like, could improve. This is up to you guys. It's up to every community. I never even used it, but I'm not against if you had a facility or two, and not in industrial, John. I'm not. There's a certain guy that says, do not bring that up. I like your presentation. I'm bringing it up because I know that you're going to do $5 to $6 million. I know you could tax them at 3% if you have two. And again, guys, I don't think they should go industrial. But I think you raise $300,000-400,000. That's a couple police officers. I think teachers are way underpaid, but you know that's a couple teachers. But that's another story.
Bruce brought it up before, so this group has brought that up before.
I'm not against it. I'm happy to take any of you to. The closest one I did would be Fall River. I could send John photos and could spread it around. You know, everybody says, you know, big government. Don't do this and that. I think the Commonwealth of Massachusetts has done a fantastic job. We're not Colorado, we're not California. You know, the cities has that formula, package stores times 20%, and let's watch it. And there's so many regulations, and they do put in, you know, $750,000 to $1 million. It's more like an Apple store than a convenience store. You know, so that's me. I was told not to bring this up, but I'm bringing it up anyway.
Well, no, it's a great point,
Yeah,
because
yeah,
we've talked about that on numerous occasions, where regardless of what opinion anyone has about it, it doesn't make a lot of sense where people are driving through Walpole to go 1 foot over the border to Sharon.
Right.
And you know, or to Plainville or wherever, and, you know, you drive down Route 1 and almost every billboard you see is for a dispensary.
Right.
And some of these billboards are in Walpole, so you're saying to this, wow, you know, we are getting nothing from these, and yet we're surrounded by them. Why are we not taking advantage of this? And, of course, someone on the other side will give their opinion as to why we don't. But at the end of the day, it still exists, and the more it becomes prevalent, the less the negative side of it makes a lot of sense from a fiscal standpoint. So, you know, I'm glad you brought that up, because it certainly has been a big discussion point with us.
Again, I'm being totally transparent. I've done 3 of them. I like the people I'm working for. They're physicians, you know, and remember, they have such a big investment you know, one person said to me, oh, there's probably kids hanging out. No, it's not like that. I think the Commonwealth is right. Let's keep it away from schools. Let's regulate it, like the Godfather said, you know, let's regulate it, so.
Well, I like your Apple Store analogy because it's absolutely true. It is not, you have more people hanging out at 7-Eleven
No question.
than at any of these dispensaries.
No, these
So-
guys have such big investments and they're paying their people a fair wage. They don't want the kid out, they don't want the group outside. I don't think you'll see any of that.
Right.
You know,
What's the approximate revenue on an average store to the
I
town?
can tell you pretty accurately. I'm gonna tell you it's 5 to 6 million now. Tinsboro is, did I say it right? I'm a Pittsburgh guy. Up north. Did I say it right?
Kingsborough. yeah.
Okay, so excuse my Pittsburgh accent, but we tried so hard, sir, to get there. We did not get it, but that store is doing 38 million, so you know New Hampshire's gonna be there. 38 million at 3%, think what they're feeding that town. We did not get it, another person beat my group, so.
Would you consider, so I know there's the one in Sharon, I think the one.
Zen Leaf, something like
Yeah, I
that?
know there's one in Plainville. Is it a concern of oversaturation of just this one area, or is that probably not?
No, I think all the different towns have done it right. 20%, one or two, maybe three in a town. That's what I think.
Why not industrial?
You know, 5 years ago, that's where they were. But, excuse me, sir,
Mark.
what's your first name?
Mark.
You could tell Mark's kind of evolving, you know? Like 5 years ago, maybe he would have said, maybe 7 years.
You don't know Mark.
No, I don't know Mark.
Evolve more
I
than
don't know
evolve.
Mark. I don't know Mark. I'm guessing. Maybe 7 years ago, he would say, I'm not having this. Then 5 years ago, Mark would say, hey, why are we giving up 300,000 to 400,000? Let's put them in the industrial. But today, why, I wouldn't want, my wife doesn't do it, but I wouldn't want my wife going industrial. I'd rather her go Main Street, you know? Something, or maybe Providence Highway. I think it has to
Is
be.
Zen Leaf considered, is that industrial? I would assume that's industrial.
That's highway business.
Highway business.
No, Providence Highway and Main Street are all wonderful
Okay.
areas.
Got it.
Yeah, well, it's
I
retail,
was just
it's high
curious what that
traffic,
was. Yeah.
it's where they'd want to be,
Right.
right? Also, you know, they don't wanna be stuck in a corner behind a manufacturing shop, so it should be on a high-traveled, you know.
Well, if you're the only one in
area.
town, then it can be anywhere, people can
Right.
go. But you're not going to pass 3
Right.
to come down to 1A to pull off into
Yeah,
With it,
to Main
uh,
Street.
an industrial area.
Yeah.
You're just gonna go to the,
especially if you're traveling through,
Right.
you know?
Yeah.
Pat, go to the next screen. That was my propaganda showing what I did. Okay, so my first thing, guys, is you guys know this town inside and out, and my first suggestion is, are we utilizing our land in the best possible way? So I'm gonna just give you a story, and I don't know the answer to this one, I don't know, you know, but in Norwood, they took a block, and they decided from, don't worry about attracting offices, you know, they're like, forget it. You're better off with the plus 55s and Molly. But they took an area, and it's all offices, John. I'll tell you where it's.
The overlay district.
Yeah, see, he's a lawyer, he knows that. And they're gonna let them build apartments. And I was brought in to consult with it. The problem is there's like 5 families, 5 different pieces of land on that block. And it's hard to get going. But if you could if you look at something, you say, maybe this shouldn't be X, it should be something else, and it's one family or even 2, you should think about expanding the zoning, you know? And so I think that's an important suggestion. I mean, I see some of the areas with trees, I don't know, but maybe you look and maybe some things should be rezoned, because originally I was brought in suggestions, so that's my first suggestion. Should be,
Yeah, you're saying rezone to make it more attractive for use wise, so,
Commercial.
Yeah.
for example, if Providence Highway has, you know, retail, these items, but maybe allow apartments there as well?
right, I am saying that.
Okay.
I'm saying maybe allow a nursing home, you know, beautiful nursing home. And I am saying exactly what John is saying. I'm saying maybe it's zoned for offices, maybe it should be zoned for retail, maybe it should be zoned for multifamily. That's exactly what I'm
What
saying.
location in Norwood you're talking about, because it's off of Route 1.
Yeah.
correct?
Route 1 in Everett,
So-
Route 1 in Manhattan.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
where the old, I forget the company.
Tyco?
No.
Telco, yeah.
Tyco, I think.
The
Yeah,
one-
they-
They moved up to, ends of a W, up North Shore, but
No,
basically,
I know where you're
Oh,
thinking.
Right off the-
Analog devices.
analog devices, thank you.
Right, I know where you're thinking, John, where I'm thinking is, you know, the guys, you know the Dunkin' Donuts that kind of sit back on
Yes.
Route 1?
No,
That
so
block.
Vanderbilt.
Yes, Vanderbilt.
Oh, yeah.
Vanderbilt, right, it's Vanderbilt, it's Carnegie Row. So all the families are nice, but you know, when you have 5, 6 different families, it's inflation. Oh, why is he getting that? And they can't solve it. They know they should build apartments, and it's also a little tricky, because you have the Vanderbilt Club, you have some nice office buildings, where to do it, what do we tear down? But I'm just saying, as you study, this is your home, 300 years. If there's something that maybe we should rezone differently, do it. And if it's only 1 or 2 families, you know, that would be good. If the town owns certain land, you know, and you say, hey, we're opening it up, you'll get all the developers here. This is an ideal community. I mean, you got the train, you got the good school system. It's really a great place.
Would you say, in terms of rezoning, is it based upon more so location in addition to the additional uses? So like you mentioned, like that location is right off of Route 1. Is that more marketable for
Yes.
apartments because it's transit oriented?
Well, I think apartments can go almost anywhere
Yeah.
if it has the right amenities. But yeah, if you're on Route 1 or Main Street and it's not really productive, I do think those areas should, internally, you guys should discuss it and maybe rezone it. I do believe that.
With consideration for like the schools, right, at the same time? Just
Right.
making sure
Right.
that there's like good access to the schools and not overcrowding schools
Yeah.
and that kind of thing.
I mean, I don't have the data in front of me, but I think that the showing of school-age children within apartment complexes is astronomically lower than what you would find in a subdivision. It's just.
Yeah,
you-
agreed.
you
I mean,
don't
and they can manipulate that by limiting the amount of 3 bedrooms you have in those apartment buildings. You know, if you have 100, well, where I live, 192 units, and there's probably 6 3-bedrooms.
Yeah. Do you know how many school-age children?
Yeah.
Very few,
Yeah,
Probably none, yeah.
very few.
yeah.
So I have
Doesn't
a
mean none,
generic-
it doesn't mean none,
No, of
but
course, yeah.
there's very few.
Very good.
You
Yeah.
could kind of work backwards, see what the demand is, and then you can tell the developer what you want. You could tell them the price point you want. Do we want to? A very, very interesting story, and if I'm taking too long, let me know, but I have a really close friend in Milton. This guy donates to all the charities and just a great guy. And this is public record. In Milton Square, he wanted to build 104 units. And this is kind of a point I wanted to make. The neighbors, one neighbor is like stopping him. And I think it would be good for Milton Square because some more people, it wouldn't affect traffic, it would help the barber shop, the Greek restaurant. I mean, it would be good. It would be good, so.
There's always one. You know,
Yeah,
everybody thinks it's gonna be the end of the world, and it never is, really.
Is there vacancy at these units at the train, like right next to the train station?
Offhand, I don't know. When I
Just
first
curious.
got here, I
I
think it was a
believe
little
they're right.
slower.
The residential units?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but not much. My building's at like 90%,
Yeah.
and
Normal, that's considered.
They're around.
Yeah,
Yeah.
10%, I'd say.
Yeah, 90 and above, fully.
I think when I first got here in 21, it was just getting going because COVID, but you're right, Mark.
Yeah.
They've always been around like,
So Dan, I have a more generic question. Obviously, you work, you know, within a lot of towns.
Right.
And it's a little bit about your second bullet there. How are most towns structured to, you know, communicate or work with brokers and developers? You know, is it, you know, the brokers and developers are actively searching the areas, or is some town structured where, I wanna say the administration has, you know, positions available that
Yeah.
go out and are proactively, working with or building relationships with everybody to say, make sure they get the next deal, or they get the next opening.
It's done both ways.
Right.
If you had a piece of land and you thought it would be good for X, you can go out, you could publicize it, you could advertise it, and they will find you. You could tell key brokers, you could tell key brokers. You can give it to one specific broker and you say, you need to bring us, 4 or 5 different offers, and then we'll decide. And you put them right there and you tell them what you want, and they will
Right,
work
but that's
with
on
you.
town-owned land,
On
correct?
town land,
Yeah.
right.
So on the other side of, say, the other side of this business that we all know of, the abandoned storefront where the landlord's doing nothing or doing anything with, how do most towns, deal with that? Or do they deal with that? Or is it the old supply and demand and, it's the economy, right? So,
So you made a good point, a real good point. If John and I owned a piece of land next to each other, and you guys said, you know what, it doesn't have to be an office, you can now make it a nursing home. We'd get together and we'd call, and we'd have 10 of them. If you have that one old guy, and I don't mean old, but, one guy, and that's a hard one to overcome, because I have a family in Franklin, they're always going out they're great, they're always going out. We just sold a piece of land to Marcus Developers, and they're building a huge warehouse. They went out, I actually went, we went out, and we found the right person, and it's a little bit confidential, but on 109 further down, we have 9 acres. And the owner, he's not a developer, he said, go out, and I looked, it's not that hard. You see who's big in this area. And this land, believe it or not, is going to just be used to do outside storage. And you look at who's the biggest REIT, this and that, and you call them. And we started at 4.8, it's up to 5.3 million, because they're now bidding on it. So to answer your question, the town could do it, the town could hire a broker, you could put an ad in, Boston Business Journal. If you guys own the land and you put it in Boston Business Journal and New England Real Estate, believe me, you will have them knocking on your door. If it's a good piece of land, these guys are sophisticated too, but if it's a good piece of land, they're a nursing home developer, boom.
There's the procurement regulations that the town has to do when they're selling property that complicates it a little bit.
Where does
The
somebody go
advertising.
to look to see where the vacancies are in Walpole or for land for sale in Walpole or town-owned land? Is that through like a
A
website that?
town-owned land for sale?
Yeah,
So it only happens rarely when the town would, so
it would be
town to sell land,
advertised.
it needs to go to town meeting first of all.
Yeah,
Town meeting vote has to be taken in order to make the land available for sale, and then when they advertise it, most towns have a procurement director, so to speak, a position that does go through the process of, as what Mr. Wallman mentioned in terms of advertisement, both on the town website, I think they do have additional resources. Whether this town uses the Boston Business Journal, I'm not sure off the top of my head, but I know Norwood has done that before when selling property.
What town group does the procurement officer work for?
Town administration.
Town administration?
Yep.
And it's just a singular position, or is it a staff, or what is it?
So right now, we had a purchasing director who is full-time, and we have a new purchasing director. It's one person, but they do work with, the administrator and the assistant.
Different departments, yeah.
Well, yeah, so different departments, so like, not to go off topic, but like all procurement, so whether it's
Right.
contracts for paving.
Got it.
Whether it's selling property.
So they're not only looking at the property side of it, they're dealing with every department's major procurement.
Yeah, even if it's a smaller thing, it's just kind of part of the day-to-day.
I mean, they're not gonna do pencils, but they might do a fire engine, right? That type of
They'll
thing.
do fire and
Okay.
emergencies. But, yeah, to
Got it.
that extent, that, the town does have, most towns do have a person that fills that role that will, when
Got it.
advertisement needs to happen.
But
It's
if
a
they're
little more
busy,
regulated,
yeah,
in
it's not
terms
their primary focus, but they'll deal with it if a property
in terms of selling a piece
Yeah,
of
yeah,
property.
yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't happen all the time.
Got it.
Most towns don't always sell their land, but it does have to go through that process.
Good, good. Dan, I don't want to get you too far off your presentation, but I do have a question specifically about a couple of, you mentioned the two big new apartment buildings downtown. They both have retail on the first floor that's been empty since day one. I know that there have been opportunities that have gotten to a certain point and then failed on at least the one in where I live at Union West. In your professional opinion, you can't know if there's any specific reasons based on that particular group, but if you were going into this, or if you've been a part of any of those things, what is holding some of these prospective businesses from coming into specifically those two buildings? Is it as easy as parking, or is it something else?
I drove there Sunday, and I've gone many times. I'd have to see, but I would think with 190 people, families living above, there has to be a couple of sources to go in there. I don't know why they're not being filled.
Mark?
Yeah.
It's somewhat of a guess, but we know those two apartment complexes bypassed the rule or the threshold, which was supposed to be 28%, I think.
I think it was 25 at the
26.
time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was a little over 25.
Right.
Of what?
When building
No space.
the residential apartments, they had to comply
ratio.
with at least
Yeah.
25% of the bottom floor being commercial.
Yeah,
And both of them skated that, and one used percentages of parking spaces as commercial square footage. So my best guess is on those two properties that if a restaurant or I guess some type of business trying to go in there is confined to a space that's not gonna work for them. I mean, maybe you could get away with like a dry cleaning place to service those people.
There's a little
up
bit
top.
more space down there. I mean, I know that they've had a wine bar that was interested, that fell through at the last second. I know that the group has reached out to Cafe Nero because they are starting to look at, they have their bigger.
Right.
But now they're starting to look at smaller footprint, neighborhood type coffee places, and they get to a certain point, and then boom, it doesn't go anywhere. And I was just wondering if you had any insight.
Here's how I'm gonna answer that. The Walpole Mall, when I left, we were about 95% filled. Jimmy Galopoulos, you guys all know Jimmy, the Duncan baby doll. His plaza, 100%. We had that corner, and it turns out, next to Finnegan's, well, the Japanese restaurant is doing so well, they're gonna take it. And then Jimmy bought the strip kind of perpendicular, that's even filled. And then, of course, Old Post we did. You just have to, this guy fills them all.
Right.
Right at his place. This is who you should talk to, because he doesn't let anything go vacant. He has the dermatologist in the back, he got the dry cleaning that I go. But my answer is they should hire, you should say, who's your broker? You gotta get going, guys. We gave you all these, breaks.
There's Atlantic signs in the window all the time.
So he's a strong local broker. That's not a bad choice. He should get it filled.
I mean, you mentioned obviously, John being pretty proactive. Yeah, you never know in terms of if there's a want.
Yeah, landlord's effort is a huge factor that's uncontrollable.
Yeah.
Like Norwood Center had that for years.
Yep.
Just if the landlord's not motivated and they passively income elsewhere.
But as a board member, like, what can we do to help facilitate that? Because of the business that I'm in particular, like, I have people coming to me all the time, and I would love to be like, come to Walpole, and like, business is great, and you can, do X, Y, and Z, but I'm not a broker, so getting, like, basically, it feels like the only thing I can do is hand them off to a broker and be like, good luck. And that feels like very good luck. Even though I want them to come to Walpole because it's beneficial for the town, it's like, that's part of the charge of the board,
For development or for leasing?
both. I have three, since I've joined this board, 3 people have reached out with like really great projects. that all wanna come to Walpole specifically.
And I agree with you there, Brianna, and part of my question to you, Dan, and to you, John, really, is I want to find out how naive I am. Because when I'm looking at certainly the same or more square footage than what Cafe Nero, and I'm only using them as an example,
Yeah, but that's
has,
a good tenant.
right, has down at Legacy, right?
Right.
Same or more square footage. You are in a building with 192 customers sitting right on top of you. And believe me when I tell you, if that building is not number one destination on DoorDash and everything else, it's got to be close, because those cars are parked out front all night bringing food into that building for people. So and you're right there at the train station. I don't understand why that sits empty. So tell me how naive I am. What am I missing? What could go wrong in that type of a situation?
You know what I would say, and I think John knows the person I'm gonna talk about. You go up to Dedham, and I'm gonna mispronounce his name, and I don't do any work for him, but I'd love to. I have a lot of respect for the kid. But Petruzzi, am I saying it right?
Petruzziello,
He,
Giorgio.
amazing. He has all those apartments in Dedham. And I know his broker, he's a good guy. And they're all filled. He's kind of like John. There's nothing vacant. Giorgio
Does he
has
own down by where the barbecue place is, the Blue
Yes,
Ribbon?
those are all
Blue Ribbon,
his.
that's him?
Those are all his, and he's coming to Westwood, and it was almost like Westwood Station again. Everybody was complaining about Islington, and I actually stood up at a meeting and I said, you know, I love Islington pizza, but I've been eating it for 20 years. Let the kid do something. And I do love Islington. And they brought in Anthony, so now we go back and forth. But John gave you the answers. Owner, Cochran, LaRusso, they're great developers. They're big, but maybe this isn't a high priority. Maybe you bring the broker in, you kind of say, hey, come on, you're part of the community. Get this thing filled, you know? Just put them in with John.
Yeah, honestly,
Honestly.
call Atlantic. I would call Atlantic and say, I'm just curious, live in the building, what's going on there? They may give you some information, they may give you something.
You know, I have a good relationship because I was on planning board when Corcoran was trying to build that building. So I was involved with them very often on what, I was made the person to negotiate with them about what the exterior was gonna look like. So I was dealing with their people quite a bit. And so I still have a great relationship being there now, especially with the building manager and higher up. And I ask them all the time, what's going on? And they're like, I don't know, we thought we had something, and now it's dead, now it's dead, now it's dead. And I hear that on different prospects where they think they have it, they're gonna sign a lease, and then boom, nothing.
Well, I don't think that area is a great retail area.
I agree with you there.
It's not a great
yeah.
retail area,
Right.
like downtown, Route 1, but you have apartments above, which is a lot of customers.
Right, there's no reason it shouldn't be a breakfast place
Right,
there or
food.
something there. But my question goes back to the generic side. So do towns like in a, you know, abandoned, I don't wanna call it abandoned, it's not an abandoned storefront, but, or towns do towns have some form of incentivization program or participate with those landlords? You know, so, you know, to help them, like say maybe it's it's a
Are you
price-
asking, is there a person within Walpole or employed by Walpole that's calling up Cafe Nero and saying, we've got a spot,
No,
come down
I
and
said
take a
more
look at
to
it?
the landlord is, you know, working with them hand in hand. It may come down to people look at what he's gonna charge rent, and they're like, I can't afford this. Or the town would work with that landlord to help broker, you know, the leasing of that property with some type of incentive program. I don't wanna throw tips around left and right with
No, I
people.
mean, your extent is, it doesn't go,
Yeah, it's,
no,
right.
essentially, it sounds
But
like.
also
it's
more to
all-
coordinate that side of it. I don't know what other towns, Mark,
Yeah.
you know, as Mark says, I don't know what they do.
Mark,
Well, they get involved on the larger side, like,
Right.
you know, keeping
Siemens and this
keeping
and that.
Siemens here, and then obviously I bring it up all the time, but Franklin, when they were bringing in EMC and Compact, they really broke the bank on that, the town specifically, to make that happen. But again, those are big partnerships. We talked about Marlboro. Marlboro is a whole different deal. Their EDC is a private company.
Right.
So, you know, I guess what we're getting towards is, and you're giving us a lot of great information, and I'm hoping that as you move through this, we might be able to look at some action items on our part where we can start to make, at least have an impact.
I think Marlboro, I did ask about their, like, again, their private-public partnership kind of deal, but the way that they do work very closely with local brokers to kind of, so when companies are looking for things, they are kind of a hand-holding division, and they'll come to them and they'll say, what do you have available? And they can kind of like outline everything, and they kind of walk them through the process of like the permitting, any tips that they're gonna get, and kind of like really make it easy for companies to do business in their town.
Yeah, like
And
a
that is
a liaison with the town.
Yeah, so they're not like making the calls, they know, like, yes, everything's laid out from beginning to end of like who do you need to talk to today, tomorrow, what department, et cetera, from the town, because I think that's one of the biggest hurdles, especially for like a Moderna or something who's, yes, they're a major corporation, but like they don't do development all the time, right? So
Is that Norwood or Westwood where they are? Norwood?
they're in Norwood, and now they're in Marlboro
Yeah.
and Cambridge. Now they do development, I guess.
Is there space in the town, like specific, whether it's owned by the town or an individual? Like, what I'm getting at, if there's a lot of land and you think it'd be, or something you have to tear down and you think it would be perfect for a different site, you could do it yourself, you could hire people, but you can go after, you get somebody aggressive, you knock on the door, you talk internally maybe about a little tax incentive. I think when I talked to the 30, 40 people about this town, you know what came up? Transparency. They like you guys. They say, yeah, he's a little tough on this and that, but it got through. They know where they stand. And I think if you ever have, like if you're attracting a big thing, John, not so much a lab, but, you know, maybe even blue collar, and you have to give a little tax break the first year, you do it. What the heck? You know, if it brings jobs, even if some of the people don't live in the town, at least they're gonna use the grocery stores and the restaurants. It's good. You know, I'm not against that. I'm not talking about like a 5-person doctor's office coming here. I'm talking where it could create 150 pro-union jobs or, you know, more than $8, you know, where people can live.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm not against that.
And to your point, Harry, those are some of the concessions that planning board had to make when the apartment buildings were going up about the percentage of commercial in the building. I mean,
Well, there's a reason for that number, and that number is there because when the developer is building the property, he has to make allowances for our commercial.
Right.
The right square footage and the access points as far as for parking too.
Sure.
I mean, so like the one here, where are you gonna park now to get to a restaurant over here? You're not your building, but the other one.
Yeah.
I mean, it's completely overwhelmed with parking, so without any parking.
Right.
And if that 25% threshold was held to where it should have been, they would have had to build accordingly. But that means he would have lost 20 apartments or something, and that income, because that's a rental, they're not selling those properties.
Right.
So there's a reason behind it. And those guys got through that because they're who they are. And it happened the way it happened. We should hold our guns moving forward to any of those mixed-use type of things in that threshold.
I don't disagree with you from a ideological standpoint, but I think it was a little bit more to it than that. I think the lack of parking in general meant that it might have been more of a, we might have been trying to win on something that was never gonna come to fruition anyway, because there was no place for anyone to park anyway.
They have the parking under their building for the allotted apartments. There's no reason why the rest of the residents should be parking on that side street where the Bank of America is being rebuilt. All that street is held by residents parking. I'm not pretty sure that they're not supposed to be parking there. I'm not sure, yes or no, I don't know the actual answer. What?
It's,
Yeah.
it's also the parking model that they employ at a
Right.
multifamily like that. There's either unrestricted or restricted parking. So unrestricted, basically, it opens freely.
Go fight
There's,
the streets.
you know, restricted parking is when you buy into the unit, you have your allotted parking spaces, and sometimes that causes an issue if you're not using them, and then there's an open space that can't be filled because it's assigned to an apartment.
Well, I know how Union West got around that, because that is a commercial.
'Cause that's unrestricted.
Well, no, they charge good money to park underneath that building, and that's what they called their commercial space. And now I know why, because,
But you're not gonna get businesses, if people
No, I
can't
agree.
drive cars and park and walk 40 yards, at the very least, they're not going there. And this DoorDash thing, I know you love, but,
I don't love it.
but I'm just over.
I don't love it. I'm saying that that's the type of people who live in that building. They are not doing a lot of cooking.
Yeah, I just, the people that pay that premium is crazy.
But a
And
coffee
obviously,
shop
they're not
down
getting
there,
out and walking 3 blocks to Main Street to
Right.
eat,
I
right?
know.
So they just wanna be
well, I'm
home.
telling you that my wife and I just joke around sometimes and we say, if we opened a good coffee shop in here, we wouldn't have to sell to anybody
Yeah, I'm
except
not-
who lives in
I'm
this
agreeing
building.
with you
And we
on
would just
that,
have
right.
one person that just runs coffee up to every apartment all night long. And I'm telling you that, I mean, I'm being facetious. I'm being facetious, but that's today's world. These are,
Right.
we're like the oldest people in the building. And most of the people are high 20s to mid-30s, and believe me, they're not buying groceries practically.
Yeah, I
They're not
agree to
doing
that.
anything but walking their dog and looking for their DoorDash. And good for them, right? But there's gotta be opportunity there for that. But who knows? We're getting off track. I
See,
wanna,
I love those type of people, I'll tell you why. They're your feeder right into your school system, and they'll buy the nice house, and.
Right.
You know, one thing I learned, when the kids start at a certain school, and then they get their friends, and you become friends with their parents, they stay. And then, of course, when they get my age, you want those apartments, those plus 55, so they can be near their kids, you know? I think Westwood and Walpole, they're just such good communities for community, you know? For
Absolutely.
community.
I
Now,
agree.
I brought this out, and I'm gonna send this out, and then I'm gonna kind of stab myself and tell you a story. So I do a lot of self-storage, a lot. But off the record, they employ 1 or 2 people. I'd
Right.
rather you put a nursing home, and get a bunch of nurses, some doctors, administrators, and pay them. What I'm saying, if you have land, and I do a lot of it, I would look for the multifamily, the nursing home, those type of things. So if you have land, I think there's better uses, because they're only gonna employ, it's all automated. They have 1 person, you know, and they're not even paying them a great salary. They're gonna throw a lot of money at you, because this is a very profitable industry. This is even better than the car wash industry.
car wash, laundromat, self-storage, those are
But I'm just saying, guys, if you have a lot of land, there's great uses for it, plus 55. You know what's also I get a lot of calls for? The Primrose, the Bright Horizon, those type of private schools. They are all looking for land. I did the Canton deal right off of exit 2, John, you know, but they're all Primrose, you know, Bright Horizon, they're all looking for land.
But they won't need zoning relief because they have the Dover Amendment, right?
Right, the zoning's easy. The biggest thing is yeah, you need, in Foxborough, they're doing one on 1 acre, that's a little small. You need about 2, the Canton was 3 acres, you need 2 to 3 acres to do a really good school. And they don't shortchange them, they're beautiful. They spent almost $4 million in Canton after purchasing the land for 3. I mean, they're beautiful inside. You know, I've toured them, you know, they got the little things and this and that, it's really kind of cute. And they have great playgrounds. I mean, my kids are 29 and 31 now, but, you know, they're great. They're great, they do a good job. So I'm just saying, if you have a lot of land, go for the education, go for the multifamily, go for my future home, those type of things.
Just, on a previous slide, quick question, it said Chick-fil-A. What's the rumor on that, and when are they ever coming, or
Someone just broke ground over there. Is that Chick-fil-A?
Sir, what's your first name?
Harry?
Harry. Could everybody go around so I know the name? Harry,
Beth.
what is it?
Beth,
Beth, Mark, I didn't forget Mark,
Kevin,
Kevin.
Brianna.
Look how smart I am. Lauren, am I right?
yeah.
That's my daughter's name. Oh, I know this guy. Okay.
Goofy guy.
So Chick-fil-A was really, really interesting story. We actually, do we have 2 minutes? Because it's going to take 2 minutes. So we signed the lease with them like 5, 6 years ago, literally, and there's such, there's an easement, guys. You probably know better than me. There's an easement, and they didn't want the double drive-through to go over. You can put a drive-through over an easement. But they made them move it. It was they made the Walpole Mall people, we used their contractor, so the Walpole Mall got a price of like $650, but they had to use their $950. So that took time. Then we had and I was very, very involved with this. Then we had to go to 4 or 5 different big anchors, Kohl's being one out of Milwaukee, and they all let it go. And Aldi's was very, very good. I did that lease, but Aldi's had a provision where we couldn't put anything in front of them for 3 years. And they were doing so much business that we went back to them and they said, go ahead, we don't care. That was very nice of Aldi's. They didn't have to do that. And, but every time, Harry, that Chick-fil-A changed it an inch, I had to go back an inch. Seriously, we need to make the store 4,982 feet. Not 4,980. I had to go call Milwaukee. Then we had to get all the approvals again. So, but they did break ground.
Oh,
Yeah,
Just recently.
yeah.
2 weeks ago.
So I get my commission half when they break ground and half when they open. So I called the old owner. I said, you didn't tell me they broke ground. Oh, we forgot. 10 years of hard work. So, I have to do that someday.
that's the other thing about Walpole Center. And I don't have the answer for this either, and I don't think I want it, but there isn't that, what do they call the stores again?
The
Anchor.
parcels,
stores.
Anchor.
pad sites.
Like, we don't have if Starbucks ever went downtown, I don't know what would happen in Walpole. There would be a fight, a civil war or something. And same thing with the McDonald's or anything like that.
Well, Starbucks is going. I'm going to tell you where it is, my prediction. You know where Conrad is?
The corner of Conrad.
Across the street, the yellow
Across the
signs
street?
up. I
Yes.
bet you they go there.
That's the
Not
big- that's the
not the
Pumpkin
corner, he only has 1,000 square feet, but right up, the old funeral home. My prediction is you'll see it. I even know who's gonna do it too.
That's the Tracy.
We get a drive-through.
I don't know.
What,
It's
the
up to
old
you
funeral
guys.
home?
The Tracy
Yeah.
one, yeah. That's what he's talking about.
Yeah,
Great for the center of town.
So they're gonna put a standalone Starbucks there?
that's my
That would be
prediction.
great.
Yeah.
Starbucks would be-
Geez, why don't they just go in underneath my building?
I mean, well, you know what, you're right.
Mark,
And you
I'm
could be.
just-
They want a
the-
drive-through, I
And you
get
could be
I
the
think they'll
DoorDash,
be
wouldn't
there.
it?
Well, Dan, speaking of drive-throughs and zoning, a lot of towns are tough on drive-throughs. They either don't want them or they make setbacks and lane width so over the top, it makes it unfeasible. Is it a true statement to say to get good retail, a lot of times you need drive-through?
Yeah, I was thinking about what Mark was saying about the coffee shop. You got the drive-through, your business goes up 30, 40%.
Even for pharmacies,
Yeah.
everything.
Definitely for food.
Yeah, the drive-through is imperative. I don't know how Medfield has anyone selling food there, because they don't allow drive-throughs, but regardless. You're right, I will drive another 1.5 miles to Millis to go through the drive-through at Dunkin' Donuts before I'll stop in Medfield. Because I don't feel like getting out of my car.
Craziness.
Maybe so, but,
They have a window.
But that, honestly, I agree with that society.
yeah.
No, I agree, I'm just being funny, because I will get out of my car at the drive-through and walk into Starbucks.
But more importantly, you look at like people's kids, you wanna get the kids out of the car?
No.
Yeah, I was like,
Never.
But
I
you're
don't even
right,
put the
Johnny.
kids in the
It's
car.
zoning too. It's zoning, it's deregulation. That needs to happen.
When I get a new listing, I go right to the table and I see what can go there, And then I start narrowing it down. I look and I see what's in the 3 mile, 4 mile radius, and that's how I figure out who I'm gonna call. So, here, I got a little bit more PR to give you guys, so. I didn't make that for this meeting. I did not make this for this meeting.
And so how do you work? So if somebody wanted to go into his building and it's already pseudo fit out for a restaurant, right? It has some restaurant capabilities. and.
That's a grease trap and everything.
Yeah, it has a grease trap, maybe it has a hood or some kind of
Yeah.
duct, right? So the tenant comes to you and says, I wanna put a cafe in here. How do you help them get across the finish line to to fit out their space for
Well,
them?
first of all, I will start hitting through my constant contact restaurants and announcing it, because they don't know about it yet. Hopefully I'll get a few inquiries, and I give the tour, and that's how the process starts. I go to them, rarely do they come to me.
No, but what if you have somebody that wants to, if somebody says, I want to build a cafe, I wanna put a cafe in there, but it's not like suited to their needs, do you help them through that process?
Yeah, if you don't even need a broker at this point. If you have a friend who wants to open a food in Mark's building, then you,
Contact that, but,
you take them to Cochran or Mr. LaRusso, and they have their guys, and you sit down. The only thing good about me is, or a smart broker, I know where they're coming, I know their language, you know. I know their language, but you technically don't need it, you know, you can negotiate it, especially if the guy has more than one, like Cafe Nero, they know exactly what they can pay and not pay, you know.
You just go direct to the.
You can go direct, right. It doesn't cost you anything. If you're saying, oh, I have a really good operator, but he knows how to make great Greek food, but he doesn't know really negotiating, then it is good to bring in an experienced broker, especially someone that knows the other side. Because they've done deals together, they know the give and take. See, there's a big thing. Not only is the grease trap in the hood, but how much tenant improvement are you gonna help these guys with, you know? That's a big thing. Like, I don't know what the new owners of the Walpole Mall is, but I know the formula that the guys from California use. I knew exactly.
That's the piece I was wondering, like, are you negotiating on behalf of your tenants for tenant
Yes.
allowances?
I'm representing that person. And they in a way, they need help, because these guys are so big and they're so sophisticated, and they're so strong. That you need somebody. Even like I was thinking about Mark, maybe there should be a dentist in that building. Now, I've done about eight dental thing. I know exactly what to do, because that build out is a fortune, seriously. So in that way, it is good to have a broker, you know. And it doesn't cost them anything, because in 90% of cases, the landlord will pay them.
Yeah.
It doesn't cost them anything. You just have to know who your loyalty is. I always believe it should be win-win. Sometimes I don't understand a few of the developers, you know, they want the last penny, and then they call me 18 months from now, so-and-so's behind, you gotta get me I'm thinking, why did they do it? Because everybody knows the first 2 years is critical. You gotta let the dentist, whoever goes in there, breathe. You gotta help them out that first 2 years,
Yeah.
really. That's old, I've done other deals since then, too.
so I'll have a last question.
Okay.
In closing, maybe, so
This
if you
is
look at,
fun.
you
This
look
is
at
good.
Walpole, you know, related, once again, surrounding towns and what they're doing, how would you rate their attractiveness to other towns? They're the same, high, medium, low, they're,
I think you guys are very strong, and I do. Right here, what does that say?
Rated A-.
A minus.
okay.
Seriously, I didn't just write that now. I was thinking about it. Here, I'm gonna read something.
Yes.
I personally think the town has a very balanced, I wrote this a couple days ago, this isn't, okay. I personally think the town has a very balanced approach. Investors and brokers, I feel the town is not as easy as Norwood to develop, but not as hard as Dedham. The town is just off of Route 95, positioned between Boston and Providence, and of course, we have the transit stop. Walpole has a great school system, it's a safe community, it's just like Westwood, we're brothers. Driving through Walpole, and I did this Sunday with my wife, driving through Walpole, you see wonderful homes from middle to way above, you know? I think our future is bright. I think, 300 years, I think we're just starting. I got more, but I've said most of it, but I think the future's great here, and I think there's a lot of potential. If you have some vacant land, I can give John the two real estate papers you can advertise in. That doesn't work, you can hire me, you can hire another good broker. What I always say is look at the guy's website and know what you're getting. You know, it's just like anything else, it's a bell-shaped curve. There's some really great guys, and there's some guys that wanna watch TV all day. I'll plug myself, I don't watch TV all day, and that's it.
Dan, when you, in your experience, you know, I think that the 1A corridor south of Walpole, for certain reasons, has been very underdeveloped. And
Right.
the biggest reason is the fact that we don't have sewer and water running down past a certain spot. And now that the prison is done, obviously, that was one of the reasons why past governing boards in Walpole hesitated in bringing sewer and water further up 1A was because of the prison. I don't know if it was valid or not, but they didn't want use from other towns, Plainville, Norfolk. But now that that's moot, and if Walpole decided to extend the sewer and water down there in a way that makes it more cost-effective or even possible for different zoning, do you view that area as something of an opportunity zone?
Yeah, and I wrote this gentleman, I said, what percentage of Walpole is septic? I wrote you, I did.
I responded.
No, you did.
I responded today, I said, you have going, oh, they're gonna respond. I didn't say who.
Right. Okay, I'm gonna give you guys, I'm gonna mention a name.
Yeah.
So I called up Bill Balls. I sold him his building up here. You know what I mean? 1600 Providence
Yeah,
Highway
yeah.
with the high wires and the great sandwiches in front.
Yep,
I
yep.
sold it to him 7, 8 years ago. I said, Bill, I'm meeting in front of the town. What do you want me to say, good or bad? And he says, oh, their hookup fees are so expensive.
Right.
I reminded him, Mark, this is a true story, guys. I said, when you bought this 8 years ago, you had a chance to hook up. Why didn't you do it then? It probably relatively was expensive too. He goes, oh, I forgot about that. But he had a chance to hook up then. You know the building I'm talking
Yeah.
about with the wires and the
1600, right
sandwich?
behind Dunkin' Donuts.
Yeah,
and Jersey
yeah,
Mike's
next,
and all that, yeah.
next to Old Post.
Yeah.
But he says, oh, so two things.
They are high.
Hookup fee, I hate septic. I'm gonna tell you now. The more you get rid of septic, the better for the town. I hate septic. Developers hate septic. Homeowners hate septic. Septic is bad. That's my professional opinion. And he was complaining about hookup fees. You know, you told me to say good and bad. You know, there wasn't a lot bad. You know what so-and-so told me about Walpole Mall? Listen to this. He goes, you tell them this is Walpole Mall, this is true. When my customers have to go south, you know where the Panera is on the right, there's the light. He goes, they can only get three cars through. I said, how do you know you can only get? He says, I've counted them. So he was upset that there was like a feed going south, going south. You know, you go north, there's 2 or 3 to get out. So that's what I heard. Bill Ball says, tell them the hookup fees are high. Danny, the broker, hates septic, I'm being honest with you. And then the certain gentleman, I told him I wouldn't say his name, he says, you tell them that light on Coney takes a long time. And I'm not a yes man, I would tell you if somebody said something more, but that's what they told me.
Yeah, I think
Would
the
also
hookup
be
fee,
able, it would be nice to go southbound on 95 at Coney as well. That would be nice.
The hookup fees, I didn't think of that before, but they're astronomical in this town.
We'll get off there and go north.
So it might open up an opportunity zone if they extended the sewer all the way down 1A to the the Norfolk line rather.
It
And
would.
You would open you would cast the net wider of developers that would now be interested in the land. Some developers will say, they check the box, does it have sewer, does it have this, does it have that? There's no sewer, they just move on.
And I
He's
think that's the number one
1,000%
reason
right.
that hospital is still vacant up there in Norfolk, right?
The radiation too is another reason.
Yeah, well,
So,
again, but they had to pipe in for the fields
yeah.
from that neighborhood that runs behind them on the other side, just to get water up there. So, I don't know. I think we need to look, we don't have a lot of land in Walpole so anytime you can look at what would make an underused area now more desirable, I think the town needs to really look at that and see what kind of investment it would take to make that happen, so, good.
That's exactly what I was saying, Mark. You said it better, but Okay, so this, any way I can help, I appreciate the
Thank you for coming,
opportunity.
Dan, appreciate it.
Thank
Right.
you.
I'll let you guys
Dan,
talk.
thank you so much.
Thank you,
Very nice to
Lauren.
meet you.
Definitely.
It's
Okay.
been extremely beneficial, and we really thank you a lot for coming.
No, my pleasure, and I appreciate it very much.
I got you, have a good one.
See you, John.
Thank you.
All right, thanks, Dan. Okay, so, yeah, I thought that was pretty good. It's good to know that a lot of the people he contacted had good things to say, because I think if he took that survey 8 or 10 years ago, he may not have had as positive responses. So it's good to see that the town's come a long way in terms of not being a roadblock to development. And I think we see that with the way Walpole Center looks today versus what it looked like 10 years ago. And it's hard to drive in Walpole on any of the major roads, 1A, Route 1, Main Street, where there isn't something going on. So a lot of people don't necessarily like the progress, but I think for those particular areas, it's needed, it's good, and it's happening. So I think that's a good sign. But I still do worry about, I think Harry worries about it as well, is when we get these new buildings and these new opportunities, the residential fills fast, but the commercial doesn't. So I think knowing Dan's input and knowing how to, what the roadmap is to try to make that happen, I think that was very helpful. So I appreciate, Pat, you helping to put that together.
Yeah.
It was great.
Thank John.
And John, yeah, John, definitely. All right, do we have anything else of consequence, or what do you think?
And the only thing I guess of consequence is I did a brief survey, from attendance of the forum.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So, we didn't, to be perfectly honest, we didn't get a lot of responses. I got 7 responses. So,
Better than zero.
take that for, last year I got 2, so, we're getting better.
That's a 350% increase.
So, I mean, you could take
Oh, you must have been good in math.
responses for what they
Yeah.
are. Just a few interesting questions, because I know that this came up last year. We talked about the
They're
forum,
in sales, too.
how to improve it. So. Is there any questions?
Were there any specifics?
Oh,
There
yeah,
it is.
sorry, yeah, I put it on the screen because it's black and white.
Were there any specifics in terms of their feedback, like?
I thought it was interesting, I mean, we get 7 responses, well, purpose of that, but, the majority did like an idea of a biannual forum, which I thought was interesting. 100%, want to see other events geared towards Walpole businesses. I don't know if you remember last year, we were talking about different ideas of like, well, maybe something a little less formal, maybe more of a networking type event, which I know Harry does with the chamber a lot. And the topics covered helpful, so 85%, topics covered were helpful, everyone enjoyed, discussion on marketing and social media presence. This is just for me, if you want to follow up information from the from the speakers. And then just a few other comments, what topics would you like to see in the future? Networking skills, objection handling, pricing for profit, small business accounting, which I think we had the first year. Tax and healthcare options for small businesses. So it was some pretty good responses for 7, but, just an idea if we want to try to improve or change stuff in the future.
Oh, you got paid for coming to
Oh, thanks, great.
Just quickly on that,
Yeah.
one of the ones that you clicked on was, the first one, and the majority wants a biannual event, correctly?
Yeah,
Correct? Versus just the annual?
yeah,
And, I did get some feedback about the 7 AM thing.
okay.
I remember when I started going there, when I was 30 years old or something, and it killed me to get there. Now it's a norm thing to be ready to go at 7 AM, but
Yeah,
we might want to look at a time change for the next one.
yeah,
And the cost is starting to get up there too.
Yeah.
I mean, $700 each, destination downtown and the chamber, it's a big hit for us nonprofits.
yeah.
So we might want to rethink that a little bit as well. Maybe have some advertisers to help take on the cost. So if we have a biannual, maybe one year it's Walpole Co-ops type of thing. And then another one is somebody else's business, and they're throwing 1,000 or 2 at it, and we use.
Or a sponsor.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, a sponsor to, not necessarily a sponsor in terms of just naming, but like, let's say let's say you decide to have a person who, you know, a company that's an Instagram, they're Instagram advertising experts or whatever, right? And, you know, if they kicked in whatever, how much it would cost to, whatever you say the activation would be on that sponsorship, but then they get a speaker to go up there as an expert, and in an effort to not only be the expert, but, you know, how many clients do they have to gain from that to make their sponsorship worth it, you know? So that's something that is obvious, but we should look at that as well. Yep. Go ahead.
Yeah, my one would be, you know, can you do a continental breakfast? You know, people need the big breakfast, right? Or have the you know, could you, you know, if you did 2 more, you make a coffee and muffins and things like that. I don't know
You
how
would
much.
save, yeah.
You would save some money.
Well, we want to move it off at 7 AM anyway.
Yeah, no, yeah, but is
Could be
it 7 to
pizza.
9 or is it 7 to
Oh, no,
5?
it's probably more of a 5, I think,
Yeah,
next time
okay,
around.
but,
And I know we go with the country club and it's a great venue, but maybe there's another, we talked about
It could
looking
even-
at other
it could e-
venues.
It could still even be there, but 5 o'clock, you know, with speakers starting at 6 or something.
no,
But
that's
again,
a
In
good
the
point.
morning?
No,
Oh,
No,
yeah.
evening,
Jesus Christ, I thought you, I was gonna say, you want more people there? You're gonna start at 5 o'clock?
no. And then the
Full
other
Lover
side, Harry,
Jackson.
that I
Well,
read
agree.
was
think
the
that
break.
5 o'clock hour would be a big difference, like even for me, cause I can't get there in the morning, so, I mean.
Or more breakout sessions, what they said, I would let them to talk to each other versus being talked to.
Right.
And then how do we as a group coordinate the breakout sessions, right? That's something to think about.
But overall, when you were there, people seemed to really,
Yeah, I mean, the past 2 years, I feel like generally it's been well received, that I attended, so,
do we give anything out at that? Is there like a door prize or anything?
no.
No?
We looked.
No,
at
just
the-
curious. Just, I don't know. Just asking. You know, it's good enough. People stick around, you know.
Yeah,
I don't know if I don't know what the attendance looked like. Like, did people look like they stayed till the end? And
majority, I mean, you know, like,
Yeah.
Maybe next year at like 5 o'clock, we could do it at the cabana at your place, outside near the pool and everything, and you can host it.
well, you
Would
keep
you
saying
get
my
somebody
place.
into your space?
I wish it was my place.
well, I mean, you mentioned the idea of like sponsorship, maybe there's an idea of, I think you brought up last time too, about showing, vacant locations. I don't know if that's
Through
kind
the
of,
town hall, the old town hall.
oh, the old town hall, yeah, might be a liability.
Yeah,
Right, right.
Probably.
there's a lot of liability in that
Sure.
Oh, yeah.
question, though.
I still,
Even if it's a vacant building, the landlord might not want all those people walking around.
yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
But that's what we'll do. We'll work on, what is it, springtime? So we'll try to do a fall one, in an evening.
How many people? 70? Is that what the number looked like last year? Last one?
Last one, yeah, we got up to a little over 65, and we had some people that didn't show up, but then we had some people that showed up and didn't register, so I think it kind of was a wash. It's probably 65.
So through the door, 65. You're thinking round numbers?
I would say so.
You know, I don't know who brought it up just now. I'm losing my mind. But if they want maybe more than one, or maybe combine certain things with a lot of the networking and mixers that you do for the,
Yeah, that's what I was saying.
you know, pop-up networking events in places that are not usual, you know, unusual places, are very popular. You know, and I don't want to keep bringing this up because I don't have a skin in the game with this, but you can dress places up to look really cool, even though they're empty spaces.
Yeah.
And if we did 2 or 3 or 4, like 1 a quarter networking, business networking event that was a pop-up site, so maybe one is, you know, you get the okay from Corcoran, what do they care, right?
Yeah.
That building's insured anyway, and you You get like one of these bartenders that does events, and they come in, set up their little bar, and there's food, and then you do a networking event from 5:30 to 8, right? And you have like one speaker or something, and these people are now parking and going into a place that they wouldn't ordinarily go.
Yeah.
And now people driving by are looking in saying, what's going on in there? And it's good for everybody. And if you do it at a different pop-up,
Yeah.
you
Well,
know,
that's the idea.
space.
You know, obviously you wouldn't want something that's not in suitable condition for people to walk around, but this is to your point, you know, it's kind of an interesting idea. Like I'm thinking of like the Kendall building, just for an example, just because I know there's always vacancies there, there's available room there, and then you obviously
Yeah, it's
mentioned
working hand in hand with
Yeah.
these landlords that have
Yeah.
those
Hopefully also-
vacancies
Right.
and say,
prices.
you know,
Hey,
Right.
we're trying to get, you know,
Free advertising.
your place rented out.
Absolutely. And
Which one's the Corcoran one?
Corcoran's
His,
95 West.
His
Oh, your
place.
place, yeah.
your place again.
Same, Mike.
Yeah, we could
I
do
wish.
it.
Mark's
Yeah, we could do
building.
that. We could work on
The
that.
Kendall Building's another one, like Pat just said.
I'll work on that, Mark, for you.
It's, Andrew Elm Street's the corner of Elm and West Street.
And we could even do it,
Factory.
I mean,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
I could probably get the community area, so the courtyard, the pool area, there's a huge area, not even, the pool is segregated itself, and then there's a huge, like, party area.
Yeah.
You know, I could probably try to work that out with them.
Yeah, we
And
could
even
do-
have Corcoran put some skin in the game for it.
Yeah.
You could do like a 5 to 8, and then you could do like 3 walk-through sessions to the commercial spot.
And like you
I like the
said,
idea of showing the commercial spot. I
yeah,
think
that's a
kind
good
of,
idea.
Or even doing it in the commercial spot,
Right,
that's what,
right.
you know,
That's the
that,
other side.
yeah.
But I think even like using the local brokers and building those relationships where like they could do some free marketing to, they know who's looking for space, so you just tell these guys, hey, we're holding this event, if you have any tenants that are looking for space, we're holding this
Yeah, perfect.
business event, like tell them to come on by, you know,
Bring your
register.
prospects, right.
Yeah, so.
Yeah, so
I
it's
don't
something to
know,
look
just a
into.
lot.
you do that, you expand
And we
to not just make, I mean, it's a Walpole event, but I guess if you talk to the brokers and they're like, hey, I got a guy who has a business.
He doesn't know where he's
North
looking
Attleboro.
yet,
Yeah.
yeah, he's looking
Spending
for space, right,
$75.
and then
Yeah,
they
right.
still register and they still pay the fee to come, or maybe the broker
is,
wants
Oh,
to.
yeah, free, but yeah.
Oh, is it free?
Yeah, like, let's say Dan has somebody that's looking for the right spot, you know, the Dans of the world would say,
Come
you
with
know,
me.
hey,
Yeah,
Mary, I know you're looking for a new spot, they're having a pop-up networking event here, this spot might be nice, come to this
and talk
event.
to all the other business owners in Walpole, and that would be a great use of that time, for sure.
I agree.
What's
All
the
right.
parking lot across the street look like after 5 o'clock?
It fills up pretty quick with tenants that have to be, half the parking lot is all Union West, half the parking lot is Union West at night and the building next door, the businesses, the commercial side during the day. So like if you have a Union West sticker, you can't be in the front half of the parking lot during the day. But at night it fills up pretty good. But the whole back row and the only rows that fill up are the first like 2 or 3. But the whole back of the whole, and along the top there where that white fence is, like up the street, is no one, so,
Is that something we're considering when we're talking about the MBTA overlay district, like when we're adding in language to like the zoning ordinance to say like, if you're gonna build like a dense multifamily downtown, that you have to have like 2 parking spots per dwelling?
So we already have requirements for 2, but so our existing zoning is
Yeah.
2 parking spaces per dwelling unit.
Sorry, just
But
like.
It's all
But-
built
but-
in.
but-
It's all built in.
but it's all, that's a starting point, let's put it that way.
Realistically, like the zoning that's proposed, it's gone down to, it's gonna be 1.5 per dwelling unit. And most statistics will tell you, transit-oriented parking, the need for excessive parking is not, it's not needed. You don't need the type of parking requirements you would find in like a single-family neighborhood.
Yeah, but that's true in like, maybe, like near, closer to the city, I feel like, but I feel like in a suburb, even though we're doing like transit-oriented housing, it's still a suburb, and you still, like,
Yeah,
most
it-
families would still have, most cars. Cause, okay, if you're not going to work and using that transit, you're going anywhere else and you do need a car.
Yeah, that's why there is still a parking requirement.
Yeah,
but
2 to
two
1.
is, in my opinion, is excessive.
2 is strong, because just my own experience,
Yeah.
less than half of the people that live in this building have 2 cars.
Or could you do like 1-to-1 dwelling and then have like developers like donate parking to the town?
Donate. How many developers have you talked to?
I don't know, there's always community benefits out of developments. If you work in the city, you have to donate, I don't know if it's not a donation, it's a check, but, in the form of a check, but it happens.
But
Like,
the certain,
like buying out your requirement type thing?
Yeah, you should, I mean, the towns should be getting something for allowing these, I mean,
but it should be a lot, those spots you talk about are what should be required for the business percentage to be for commercial parking for those places.
right, if you're gonna be building like a building, you need to have the like, you should also have to have parking, because I think that is a huge
That's not a
complaint in
bad,
Walden.
that's not a
Walpole.
bad, I don't know if you meant to bring this up this way, but it begs a question that, for Pat, I think. I don't know if you know the answer to this or not, but, so let's say that the major hangup with both the spot at LaRusso's building and the spot in Corcoran is the retail parking, right? Does the town have any leeway in allowing the landlord to negotiate away some of their parking spaces that over time they've realized that they're not using for their residents, to help facilitate the retail, or is the town's,
So they've already, those two buildings both got relief from their parking requirements. So that goes back to the point of
Correct.
2 spaces per unit is just not what a developer is looking
Yeah,
at right
Correct.
now.
that's fair.
But
but even at the 1.38, which is what I think, Union West got,
1.22.
1.22 is what they landed on?
Union West is 1.22, Liberty Station is 1.43.
Okay, so 1.22, but let's say they're using 0.98.
Yeah.
Can they donate that 0.3 to a retail
At
organization?
that point, they're gonna wanna sell it.
Well, you see what I mean, though,
So
like,
it becomes complicated, because one part of it is, it's private properties owners' prerogative, in the sense of, hey, we wanna make this, our spaces available for the public to utilize to go to our commercial tenants. But at the same time, that would depend, I guess, on their permit that they got through.
but if they are
planning board.
required to have this, we agreed on something different, 1.22.
Yeah.
Are they allowed to negotiate part of that 1.22 out to a tenant or commercial tenant and take it away from their residential
So like
tenants?
after the fact?
Oh,
Yeah,
like,
after the fact,
After the fact, so I guess it would just depend on how their decision, so I'm going back to like site plan review.
sure, sure.
So there's site plan review with the planning board, how that decision was written when they conditioned the parking. So if it's kind of open-ended, like, there's gonna be, I'm just gonna pick a number, so there's gonna be 100 parking spaces for the unit, for the development. If the language is kind of like,
Gray.
subject gray,
Yeah.
then there might be just more of a,
that
the
they-
onus is on the developer to determine
Right,
how they
let
wanna
him-
do it.
right.
But like but the town, would they go back and say, no, you have to have 1.22, that's what we agreed on, dedicated to these residents?
Yeah, it depends on how the decision's written. That's what I mean, so if it is, and say the decision's written that like,
Let's say that,
that's
yeah,
the parking for the residential,
Right.
you're gonna need to amend your decision.
but you could still petition to amend the decision.
Yeah,
And if they came back and said, look, we've been here for 4 years, we don't need 1.22, we need 0.9, that's what we've been using.
Yeah.
Can we offer that 0.3 to our potential retail
Yeah, as a lease.
as as part of the lease package to entice someone to come in because it's been empty for 4 years because of the parking?
that could be their reasoning with the planning board, so to speak. I mean,
Yeah.
now I think parking's with zoning board, but either way, that could be explaining their reasoning for the need for that, modification to their special permit, so.
Right. And you could do it in a way where you say, yeah, and at 9 o'clock, when the coffee shop closes, those go back
So
from 9 o'clock to 6 in the morning, now they're residential again.
if if I was the developer and I had that scenario, then it'd be like, well, hey, we got permitted for 100, we said we needed 100, we really only fill up 75. We've looked at it for 5 years, we're really only filling up 75, but we want to encourage
20.
that 25 to be utilized for commercial. I mean, that's the argument I guess you would pose to the board when you go to modify your special permit, is that, you know, here's an example, we've looked at it, here's, you know, the data to say that we don't need that amount of parking, and we want to also encourage commercial development, and
Sure.
we want to encourage people to go to that commercial development. And that's the argument, I guess, we were
Yeah.
looking for.
Yeah, I just didn't know if you knew,
Yeah.
if it was like, I probably should know this, but I'm kind of embarrassed that I didn't, but I just wanted to know if it was like, no, they agreed to that, now it is codified that that is it, they need that 1.22 forever for that, for them to have 192 residential units.
Everything's kind of, you take a look at the it's always about the language and how it's
Yeah.
written. So I mean, that's, the physical parking spaces are what you created, but the language of the breakdown, I mean, it just depends on the decisions written.
So Mark, on that, my question more is to Cochran, whoever he may be, or
Yeah.
they may be.
Yeah.
Can we get them in and ask them the question of, okay, why is this, it's 5 years, we'd like to help you, instead of jumping to, oh, it must be the parking, have him turn around and, you know,
So-
just be transparent with the.
That would be an
with the
interesting
folks.
conversation.
So
Yeah.
not to go too in the
And
weeds,
it could
but
be off the record.
part of this is also our zoning, and I think, you know, Harry was talking about the whole relief they got from the percentage with the percentage is based upon how much commercial space you provide.
Right.
You're allowed 3.5 times that space to be utilized for residential. It's a weird way of setting it up. Most towns do like a density calculation, like a dwelling units per acre or a floor area ratio to say like, hey, you have this big of a lot, you can have this.
We don't have a floor area ratio in Walpole?
No,
We don't.
we don't do an FA.
Harry, I thought that, were you doing the math on that? Is that how you came up with that?
For density.
But just for building size.
25%.
For building size, it's, yeah, I mean, it's just mostly talking about for density. Density.
Oh, for
in terms of
density.
the amount of units
Got it.
within a mixed-use or multifamily development. We do multifamily kind of more like a dwelling units per acre, but that's only for the GR. But I guess what I'm getting at is, because of that requirement, and again, not to, you know, speak bad or think anything different, but I think some of those developments have gone in as mixed use, they have excessive commercial to justify where the real revenue is, which is the residential. So they may have wanted to exist as just a multifamily, but had to exist as a mixed use.
So they don't have, they're not incentivized to even do anything with that?
Yeah, right, that doesn't
Part of that
make
goes
their
back to,
numbers any-
you
they
know,
don't
what
really-
John was mentioning too, sometimes it also depends on what that property owner wants to
Right.
do. But we don't, you know, that's not to say they don't want to, I just,
But Corcoran manages the building.
yeah.
I don't know what that relationship looks like between, I know the ownership group is completely different from Corcoran. So I don't know if the ownership group has any incentive at all to lease
Yeah,
it.
and I wouldn't wanna go into like picking specifics.
Yeah,
But I
neither
think
would I.
from just, from a standpoint of anything, I think the zoning could be clear, whether it's parking, whether it's, how you, what type of uses you're allowed, how lenient you are on some things in terms of density. Yeah.
Is there a parking requirement for a retail or restaurant?
There is a parking requirement for those uses, but we have a specific, no commercial parking needed, for the downtown and East Walpole.
Oh,
So there's a
okay,
change in
good.
the bylaw where they actually call out the geographic location, so
Got it.
it's the central business district, which is a zoning district, and then
Yep.
it's East Walpole Village, which is just some map they created, and they said essentially if you have a commercial development or commercial business, you don't have to have a parking requirement.
Got it.
Which can be a good thing, can be a bad thing, but you
Yeah.
have limited space at both those locations, which is why I think they put that in there,
All right,
so,
interesting. Okay.
Catch-22.
yeah.
Well, that's good info. I'm just getting tired, I mean, they're getting tired of it too. They just put skins up on all the windows at Union and West so people couldn't see the empty space inside. You know, they put up marketing skins on the inside of the window, so it's like, okay, great, you got smiling faces looking out at everybody, but you know, what does that mean? So, okay. Does anybody have anything else? No? Harry, haven't seen you in a while, nothing?
I'll make a
Usually, do
motion to adjourn.
we have a second?
You gotta talk about, Main Street Live quick.
Okay. Is that on the agenda? We can still bring it up. Oh, yeah, initial discussion. What do we, does anybody have anything on Main Street Live?
I
we
would put it
don't-
on there just because I think usually the spring is when
Yeah, well, we start,
we
we,
talk about
we,
planning for
we
next
put
year.
together a subcommittee, that type of thing.
Yeah.
The only thing I'm thinking,
I still think you should get a cover band, like Led Zeppelin cover band, and then Aerosmith comes out afterwards.
the real Aerosmith?
No, just a cover band.
I was gonna say Beth's 300 group better come through with some do-re-mi if we're gonna put the real
Oh,
Aerosmith up there.
good luck.
Maybe you could try to combine something with Main Street Live and 300.
No, I don't combine. We'll-
Combine it, but you could,
Highlight
we
it.
could request something to the 300.
I will say this, there's a couple of things that we've been thinking about, and the only reason I'm hesitating on having any kind of in-depth discussion right now and not wait till next month is, I already have the technical side booked, so I'm not worried about that. But I do want to have Danelle here and a couple of the other people who are not only instrumental, but, you know, Danelle really handles a lot of logistics on the non-music production side. So without him, it's kind of a tough conversation to have.
Well, we usually have a meeting. We'll have a meeting with Janelle, myself, you,
And whoever else, but we might have two new
oh, do we have two new
members.
people, two new members coming in?
Not
We don't know yet, we've advertised for them,
Oh,
but
so we don't have anybody yet?
we don't have anyone yet.
Okay, all right.
So I would just say table it for,
But if there's
For the
something that you
main
want to
meeting.
bring up about it, we're certainly, we need to be talking about it right now. So if you have any ideas or things you want to bring up, Harry, absolutely.
Just my first thought was.
Led Zeppelin and Aerosmith?
Something different, yeah.
I was thinking, and this is gonna be hard to get, although I have talked to a couple of them, but it's expensive. I was thinking of trying to bring something up to do a second event earlier in the summer with the 300 and bring in out here, instead of shutting down the center, and bring in a Jimmy Buffett tribute act. Yeah. Where it would almost be a second Main Street Live type thing, but I don't want to shut down the center of town. That's too much of an issue. I think one time a year is really good because so many different parts of the town get involved in that. So it really needs to be coordinated, but out here I think is different. And I think it's timely because of obviously Jimmy Buffett passing away. People are, you know, so I think it's something that a lot of people would come to. I think it would be, even if we had the same type of food, beer, wine situation, I think it would still be a family type event.
Is the
Are you
300th,
are you talking about like the food trucks and stuff?
Yeah,
of the 300, is the 300 doing another laser show?
Yeah, well, they were supposed to be doing it the night before the 4th,
Okay.
supposedly.
Maybe do the show, the music with that?
on the July 3rd.
Yeah.
It might be tough to get anyone,
Well, we do fireworks on the 3rd,
yeah.
right?
The night, yeah, the
So
night,
it'd be
yeah.
the 2nd. The laser show would be the 2nd.
Oh, you actually saying the night before, or are you saying the night before, like the name?
No, no,
Oh,
I'm
you're saying the 3rd.
the 3rd.
Yeah.
The night before,
Before the fireworks.
Yes, that's
Okay.
correct.
So that's too much then.
Well, they
Well,
have
no,
music
it's
anyway.
timeframe, I'm asking if we're gonna have food trucks, we can't, you know, I don't even, that's another thing, like, have we started that yet? The food trucks for Main Street Live, cause that's.
John usually handles
yeah,
that.
John said he'd continue
would
to
continue.
Oh,
support
we did
that.
say that,
Yeah.
okay.
So I think next meeting,
wanted to
it's
continue to
at
volunteer for
6:30,
Okay.
is that should be the meeting, is to kick off the Main
Invite
Street
John
Live
to be there for
discussions.
that.
All right, so just to get to somewhere productive with that, Pat, in your opinion, how far out are we on getting the two new members?
Oh, I couldn't give you an answer. It's
Where
not-
was
It could be a month, it could be
advertised?
3 months, depending on,
Where was it?
so we need to start.
3 years, I have no idea. I don't know.
So
It
we have
depends
to
on-
start recruiting then. We
I
can't-
have started recruiting.
You have, okay, good.
Unsuccessfully, but I'm trying.
Well, once we find people,
Yep.
the process is how long?
In terms, as soon as you can get on a select board meeting and they can.
So you get
talk to
someone
you.
that's interested, they put in an application to the select board, they get on the next available meeting that they can get on, whatever the select board secretary says. And then after that, they're immediately appointed and they're immediately part of it.
Yeah, I mean, they gotta get sworn in.
So we're looking June.
It took me like a month and a half from beginning to end, but I'm also like tenacious in that sense. Like I wanted to do it, so somebody else would have to
So
want to do it.
what, are you worried about the Main Street Live? What are you worried about with these?
I wanna make sure we have a subcommittee in place that knows what they're doing.
You know, you
We
do.
always have a subcommittee in place for Main Street Live. It's you, myself, and Danelle, and
And
Before it was 3 people volunteered to run certain functions, so it's no
I mean, I don't
different.
think that's a problem. We just have to get together with Danelle and just get, I mean, it runs itself basically now.
famous last words.
Has Brian left the board?
Famous,
Yeah.
yes.
And then John?
Yeah, but he said they're both
But
going
John-
to
yeah.
assist on Main
Yeah.
Street Live.
Yeah.
But Brian was more on the actual event. John was the food truck person.
Right, and
What's
John
the-
said he would do
What's
that.
the line in that movie? What was the line in, remember the movie The Firm where the Wilford Brimley said, I'm paid to worry about things that nobody has to worry about? So it runs itself, scares the hell out of me.
Somebody I just need like a year to like learn the ropes
You'll
and
learn
then,
pretty
right.
fast.
No, you learn,
really
you learn on your feet.
It's fun, you know what, and it's fun. It's
I've done
fun.
event planning.
So let's not worry about, we can add anyone to a subcommittee, we have the core. What's Danelle, I haven't talked to Danelle in so long, what is his,
I don't know, I just know he's in Florida.
so he goes month to month with you, telling you whether or not he's gonna be here, he hasn't given you an idea as to when he's coming back?
I haven't asked. He just called today because he didn't know if we needed him for a quorum to do Zoom.
Okay.
I don't.
I don't care, he does what he
Yeah,
wants.
yeah.
I just don't wanna commit him to something that, without speaking to him first, that's
No,
all.
what we're
Yeah.
gonna do is we're gonna send them a message, just out, when you're coming back, we just wanna start Main Street Live.
Yeah.
Yes, that's all. And the first part would, let's get a date in May that we know we can
When's
communicate.
the 300th, I know you guys meet semi-regularly, when's
We
the
meet
next
once a
meeting?
month. Once a month. Give me a second.
When is the 300th party?
All year,
That's all, you have activities
there's
going
different
on
things
there.
all year,
Next year?
This year.
this year.
This year.
You didn't know? All the advertisement that's
I've
going
seen
on?
all the
All the
advertisements, but I
hoopla,
thought it was next
all the
year.
everything with that
I thought we were prepping for next
incredible
year.
group of people?
I went to the laser show in
Same.
preparation for,
That show was cool.
it was
It was
awesome.
cool, yeah.
Brought my kids, it's great.
What month are we in? April?
I'm not gonna take that second until we get this done. I know you're waiting. You wanna get out of here. Where are you going?
Going nowhere. So I'm good to sit.
Is there a select board meeting
It's
tonight?
usually it's usually, when do we have chamber? It's usually the same time I have chamber.
Second Tuesday
So
of
it's
the
the
month.
second Tuesday a month, so whatever,
So we just missed it?
no, yeah, now we're going into May. So it'd be the second Tuesday would be the,
So if somebody wanted to propose
would be
something,
May 14th.
if somebody wanted to propose something, could we do that through you?
Yeah, you could do it through me, or I could give you the chair's info.
Who's the chair?
Bill Buckley.
School board Bill Buckley?
Yes,
Oh, he's all right. I don't know.
okay. So
You
anyway,
gotta go?
Yeah,
All right.
we all gotta go.
All right, we'll table that. I'll send out some emails about that. Anybody, obviously, we could use all the help we can get for Main Street Live. So,
yeah, but just so briefly, just really quick, because I know we all want to get out of here. What's going to happen is we'll have a subcommittee meeting. Pretty much we all have our tasks, and then we go out and branch out after that. Mainly the night of Main Street Live is when we really need all the help, manpower. Okay.
but we will need someone to kind of meet or talk to John,
I'll talk to John
and then,
in terms
Oh,
of
yeah, you
food
actually
trucks.
do
and
John.
find someone on the
Before
board.
him, it was, I know the rec department,
Right.
they're,
But it went really well last year with him in charge of it.
That actually should, those food trucks should have been started.
Started now.
Yeah.
So maybe if we had someone that wanted to just talk to John, figure out what he did to make it so successful, and then transition him out after this next one,
He probably
and then
doesn't
they
wanna
take over.
transition out. I don't, I think he wants to be part of it.
Right.
Well, I got the impression he wanted to be part of it on the night and volunteer. I didn't know that, you might be right. I didn't get that he was gonna be putting together all the food
I could
trucks
be wrong.
and taking responsibility for that.
That was my understanding, but I wasn't at that meeting, but I
Which one?
heard that secondhand.
that he
when,
wanted to
last
handle.
meeting when.
Yeah, I'll talk to John and,
Yeah.
and see what exactly.
Find out to
he
what
wants
level he
involved.
wants to continue to be involved.
And then we can try to figure it out, you know. I know we did, not we, the town, to some extent, before John
The
took
rec
care of it, the rec
department,
department. I can talk to them again, or we can try to just figure it out, so.
Okay.
Can't remember the girl's name who took care of it.
Well, I mean, the phone calls, the reaching out needs to happen. If one thing needs to happen ASAP, it's that. Because those food trucks
Book out.
booked out, yeah. All right, so I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed, abstained, good, we're out.
All right, fabulous.
Thank you.